All right, hello everybody. That was He-Man talking when he wasn't supposed to, but that's wonderful. My name is gm-rikoo. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties we're having at the beginning. It is the 14th of May, 2015, Thursday. That means it's Throwback Thursday, so this is not actually happening right now. You're seeing, this is from the past. Actually, you know, there's a very good chance you might be seeing this in the past because we're going to upload this to YouTube later, so if you miss it, whoop-de-doo. You can always watch it later on the YouTube, as some players like to say, the YouTube. But let's see here. Well, if you're not hearing any sound, everybody, just tell me in the chat room, but I'll have a feeling that actually he is. I learned I really trust the chat room. But anyway, okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is war and those mics that people like to ruffle around on their shirts and makes a bunch of sound like whoever that just was. But we're going to be talking about war, so I thought, I'm going to have to get some people who know how to war, right? And I thought, well, perfect. I'll get, who will I get? So I asked the community, I asked around, and everybody says, oh, you can get this person and this person and that person. And I said, you know what? I think I'll just see if the person wants to be on there. They can contact me that way. Because usually I go to the person, I say, hey, you're a killer in the game. You murder everybody freely. Do you want to be on the stream? And they'll say, no, I'm too shy. But they're murderers in games, so it's pretty funny. It's always around. But then He-Man comes to me and he says, hey, I'm He-Man. I'm all-powerful. I like to battle people and destroy. So yeah, I'd like to be on the stream. I said, all right, cool. And then Mir wrote me and said, hey, I'd like to be on the stream. I said, all right, cool. So first of all, He-Man, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
You know, I'm pretty good, actually, considering that Twitch was having a few issues. If you're not hearing the sound, you need to refresh or maybe run the stream at a lower thing, but we'll worry about that later. So, He-Man, real quick, before we move on to Mir, we'll do a little interview with you real quick. How long have you been playing the game, Illyriad?
I think it's about, I started in October or September 2011.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's a long time. So, here's the question. Would you consider yourself a vet?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah,
been playing long enough.
People are always talking about it. They're always talking about it. Like, what is a vet? And all that. I'm always like, a vet is probably this, that, and the other. So, all right. And then next, we're going to move on to Mir. Mir, how long have you been playing the game?
I just passed my 4-year anniversary.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, congratulations on that. You should have told me it was your birthday. I would have sent you a single beer.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
I think I wasn't online that day. I missed it.
Oh, on your birthday day?
Yeah.
You weren't online at your birthday? Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not going to question your dedication, considering that I think you, like, I don't know, you're calling from the North Pole or something weird you were saying earlier, so that's pretty dedicated. You could get in a lot of trouble today. So if Mir suddenly drops the mic, we know why. Because she's running from the criminals right now, running from the law. All right, so Mir, I'm going to ask you where you got your name. That doesn't sound very familiar, although wasn't there a Russian spacecraft called Mir, I thought, but that is M-I-R.
Well, you know what? I was just looking for something that sounded elfish and was easy to type because I'm basically lazy.
Okay, there you go. I like that because so many people do these long names and everything. And then He-Man, I have no idea where you got your name from. Master,
picked it up around the place.
Either you are of a certain age group, like I am, or you have a son or daughter who's into He-Man. One or the other.
I'm 34, so I'm in that.
You were pretty young when He-Man was doing his thing, but it's still a very popular toy. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about war. Who cares about action figures when we're talking about the very serious topic about war? We're going to cover a lot of different aspects of it, but I didn't want to necessarily do a stream where I say, hey, He-Man, what are some of your top secret strategies? Hey, Mir, what would you recommend if somebody wants to murder somebody? That's not what it was about, because whoever's moving around, if you could just chill for a second, there you go. A lot of alliances really value those strategies, and they really want to kind of keep those secrets. So if you want to give me top secret stuff, go for it. But if you don't want to, I understand completely. So we're going to kind of talk about general war stuff. What is it good for? Huh? Absolutely nothing. That kind of thing. I was going to make a Tolstoy joke like in Seinfeld, but then nobody would have got it. So anyway, I'm just going to start with some general questions. We're going to get into it. Now, chat room, if you're listening to this now and live on the Twitch channel, if you want to post a question in the chat room, in Mir or He-Man, if you see that, go for it. Answer it. But if you see this later on YouTube and you want to leave a comment or something, go for that as well, and we'll get to your questions. I'll answer those in in-game mail or something like that. But He-Man, I'm going to start with you, okay? So what is war and how is it different compared to a single battle or a siege?
Well, I think the main difference is that a single battle in a city is just one city, whereas with a war, it's everything. Could be anywhere at any time. And that's the main difference. You know, with one city, it's over as soon as it's done. With a war, it just keeps going.
I think maybe you misheard me. I said a siege as in like a siege engine.
A siege engine?
Yeah, is that what I said? Yeah, okay, I think that's what I said. But
I was looking at the question.
Oh, sorry about that. Never mind. I thought you were. So it's, but I mean, I mean, what are some of the essential? I mean, the mechanics are pretty similar, right? Where are some of the big differences as far as the mechanics?
Well, there is no difference in mechanics between war and single siege, but the main difference in war is it just doesn't stop. That's it. After a single siege, it's finished. No, you just keep going, find another town.
Well, until the other side cries.
What's that, sorry?
Until the other side gives up or cries.
Well, until then.
Peace is declared. So it does have a stop. I thought, wow, it's pretty cool if he's warring constantly. So then the difference there is, though, is how would you start a war? Let's just get right to it. If you wanted to, first of all, let's actually just start here. First of all, who would wars be between, typically, in your experience, Mir?
Well, typically the wars that I've seen have been petty issues blown into something because people are bored.
Okay, that's an answer. So are these enemy alliances that the petty issues turn into a war, or is it just, are there sometimes friendly reasons for going to war, or do just people want to try it, or?
Well, sometimes I think there've been a few times when people have said, "Hey, let's practice a war," but that's not a true war. That's more of a a friendly little competition, or consider it a tournament or something like that.
Right.
But a real war is there's usually bad feelings when you have a real war going on.
Oh, okay. So if your feelings aren't hurt, or if you haven't made somebody cry in real life, it's not a real war. I understand perfectly. I wasn't going to get into all that because I can't cover emotions. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that. So, but well, I'm saying. So in your experience, so usually it does start off as a real disagreement between parties, and it says, "Hey, let's settle this in war," and then it goes from there. But if that's a lot of the reasons that wars start, do you find that wars usually end because the sides amicably agree to, let's just stop this, or because is it a war of attrition, like somebody just gives up?
I've seen both happen.
Both? Yeah, I've seen both.
Okay. What do you see more of, you think?
I'd have to say that you see more where somebody just kind of gives up because they can't take it anymore.
Oh, okay. Now, you got to be honest with me. Mir first. Which side of that are you usually on? Are you usually on the side that is making the other side give up, or are you on the side that's usually giving up?
I've only been in one losing war.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard some pretty impressive stats this week. Players tell me they were in certain numbers of wars and stuff. Like, how many wars have you been in?
I don't count them. I mean, I was in Night Crusaders, and it seemed like in wars all the time, until I just got completely exhausted.
Okay. He-Man, how about you? How many wars do you think you've been in?
Just two. Won one, lost one.
Really? I know you've done some pretty epic battles, though. I know that for a fact.
Oh, look, producing troops is what I do.
Yeah.
Stick them on the square. But we lost against the Night Crusaders. I just gave up in the end. And
He-Man has one of the most impressive armies I've ever seen.
So, but you were in two wars. Let's not get all lovey-dovey. This is a war stream, all right? Don't start with me on that. But so you were in two wars, and when you're in a war, He-Man, because you seem a little bit more analytical to me. Like, you enjoy a lot of the war type, combat type stuff because of the numbers and the kind of the perfection of it. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be about right.
So when you're involved in a war, are you finding yourself getting emotionally entangled like a lot of people, or are you just kind of enjoying every aspect of it, even if you're getting your butt kicked, which I'm sure doesn't happen too much?
Well, I learnt not to. It's all fun now. That's how I took it. The first one was a bit of the first scenario, but the second one, not so much. I just wanted to kill everything.
Oh, okay, basically. Well, that's lovely. How about you, Mir? Do you find yourself getting pretty emotionally entangled in, or do you think that it's because you said it was exhausting? Do you mean like physically exhausting? You have to just stay glued to the game, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you really want to do it well, if you want to do the war well, and you're really into it, then yeah, you might be setting your alarm clock to wake up in the middle of the night to launch a siege.
Right.
Which I don't do anymore. I got over that fast.
And was that like an alliance that, hey, everybody set your alarm clocks, let's do this at this time, that type of thing?
Yeah, and it was brilliant. It was beautiful.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That was a lot of fun. It was, that was great. But you just can't do that unless you have no life.
Well, or if you had kids or something, it'd be real. I'm not going to get tangled into these discussions of having no life and petty squabbles as you keep describing things. I can't do that. But you can go for it all you want. But no, I see what you mean though. I mean, it's a lot of dedication. And actually, I've heard a lot of players tell me that they do stuff like that, coordinated, everybody get up, because not everybody, we're very international games, so people have to really get up all different times. Some people's 3 a.m. could be other person's 10 a.m., that type of thing. So let's see here. Okay, so let's just start from the very basics of it then. So let's say, Mir, you're going to fight He-Man in a war, because you're in 2 different alliances, I think so, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's say you hate each other's guts, which is very possible. I don't know. Nobody likes He-Man. Everybody knows this. But so let's say you wanted to fight He-Man. Would you just declare war on him, or before that, would you both of you take steps like you would discuss it, or does it depend on the situation?
I think it depends on what's going to start it. I mean, if you really don't like an alliance, you're going to look for any little thing to blow up into something that you want to go to war with.
Okay.
But I think we need a little bit more of, just, I'm going to start the war because I want to start the war. I'd like to see a little more of that.
So you want a little more disruption, because I've seen people talking about this a lot, where they say, hey, I want to let's get it started, let's fight, and then but who makes their first move type stuff. So let's say though you find a reason to attack He-Man, or do you alert He-Man to it first? Do you say, hey, I'm going to declare war on you, get ready, or do you just go for it?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, you never know. You might have like some kind of courtesy towards He-Man. He-Man's a nice guy. He-Man, how about you? If you were declaring war on Mir, what would your first steps probably be?
Look at her towns and find out which spots I can siege from.
Okay, so you'd start estimating immediately. Yeah, see, I thought that's probably something you would do as well. You'd start estimating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never just jump right into it.
No, you have your battle plan lined up before. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So how many times have you looked at an opponent and been like, maybe I shouldn't do that?
I look at everybody.
Well, you know what? I think
that sounded creepy just a little.
Every alliance has some cities that are vulnerable, and you're always gonna find something.
So when you start off looking for these are you looking for weaknesses, or are you kind of talking with your alliance and saying, look at this town, let's start there, and then you just kind of formulate and plan? How long does that process typically take?
Till we find enough targets.
Okay, so you're again. A theme with He-Man is he's really analyzing the heck out of this stuff. Mira, is that the same kind of concept over there with you guys and girls?
Yeah, I think that's anywhere, especially at the beginning, and you're gonna take a look and see what's there. But you also have to remain flexible with that plan, because once you finish that first 1 or 2 attacks, you might be thinking you need to go somewhere else, or try something new.
So have a backup plan, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So, and then once you do that, you go ahead and declare war. Everybody knows it. And then, do you find that when you declare war, do you immediately start getting flooded with, like, notes of "I'll support you" or that kind of thing, or do people kind of stay out of it? Other players outside of the alliance, in other words.
Nobody stays out of anything in Illyriad.
Okay. I see what you mean. You're saying everybody's nosy. That's fine. No, but you know what I mean. Do you, as soon as it happens, do you find it just starts rolling immediately, Mir, or do you is it a slow build up?
Well, you know what? I think it depends on who you're at war with. Generally, I mean, if it's an alliance that's not popular, if they've got a lot of enemies, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of people contacting you saying, "Hey, let me know if I can get in on this."
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So do you?
Sometimes you'd be surprised at who you hear from.
So do you think that it's kind of other people might be waiting for somebody to make the first move, and then they'll maybe jump in and support one of the sides, that type of a deal?
Definitely.
Oh, wow.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. So how about you, He-Man? Whenever you start a war and decide to just destroy people out of, or even a large act, almost anything, are you finding that people come to you and say, "Hey, you're my hero in this regard. Thank you for doing this," or is there a lot of support, or is there people that just really like, it just depends?
I may see most of that in GC these days. I try to avoid those sort of mails. So I just look at GC. And that's where people start throwing apples from the cheap seats.
I see. So that's where you actually get a good pulse of it there.
Yeah, I watch it there. I don't interact too much with GC. I just watch and see what's going on and gauge what's going on from there. Yeah,
most players don't interact with general chat. And that is for anybody who's watching this later don't know what that is. That's general chat. That's what you're seeing right over here, actually. Oops. This is our general chat. I have it popped over on my right. So I'm zoomed in, by the way. The normal game doesn't look this kind of zoomed in. But so a lot of people will watch that and not even what they call lurk. So you can see there's 626 out of 700 online. Most players do not talk in chat. Most players talk in their alliance chat or in private messengers, in-game mails, that kind of a thing. So global chat is funny when a war or something goes on. You see a lot of discussions from everybody except for maybe one or two people involved in it. When you're warring with somebody, Mir, we'll start with you on this. Does your alliance try to maintain a sort of silent running, like nobody makes a comment to the press type thing, or is it, do you go in smack talk or whatever you want to do?
You know, that is kind of developed over time. I mean, at the beginning, I was of the opinion that you had to have a position, you had to have it out there on the forums. And I've completely turned around from that. If I'm going to get involved in a war, I'm more likely to keep my mouth shut now and not say a word anywhere. Just because it gets to be, it raises my blood pressure sometimes.
Hey, it raises my blood pressure too, so it's all right.
To be out on the forum, so I kind of avoid that now.
But I like that. I like the action when it goes on. There's such an energy that flows through the game when it happens. By the way, one of my baby mammoths might break through the door. By the way, if you hear that. So how about you, He-Man? Are you finding that your team you're kind of quiet, like you said? Anyway, you don't talk. And Mir, you don't talk much in GC either.
I used to talk a lot more. I don't anymore.
Yeah. So, are you finding, is there a policy that you might have, He-Man, of everybody just shut your mouth and, that type of thing?
If next time we get into a war, might just troll the enemy because that's just easy. It's fun.
Yeah. Well,
that can be fun.
I would think it sounds kind of silly, but isn't there, maybe not, is there a strategic element to that silence too? You don't want to risk giving something away?
It depends, really, what's going on, where you're at. You try and psych them out, all sorts of things. Get them to do something silly. Mm-hmm. But plus it's just fun. It's good to keep a record of it too.
Yeah, because I could figure that I would figure that if a player comes to chat, which I see them all, and they're like, "Oh, that really hurt me, that attack," or or anything like that, then you see there's a weakness there. Got a couple chat room questions. First one, none too bright. Let me see if I can put this correctly here. My question is, what are your personal thoughts on actually having one-on-one battles between alliances without 300 others jumping in? Yes, he's exaggerating about the 300 other jumping in. I think what he's asking about is kind of what you're talking about earlier, like the little practice wars, maybe.
Yeah, it would be nice if wars could stay one-on-one more often. And recently, I think that's easier for a smaller alliance than a larger alliance.
Right.
Once one big or a couple of the big alliance start fighting, there's a lot of people who want to get involved.
Right. We have another small human has decided to jump on the stream. I see a lot of people expressing that kind of wish, like, hey, let's do it. But I, from my experience, I've seen that if the alliances or the people involved talk to each other and make it known what they're doing, they're not going to just get completely ransacked. Do you know what I mean? I think
the last war that I saw was between Sin and Roman Empire, and that would seem to be okay. No one really jumped in there. They did their own thing. And that was about it.
Mm-hmm. Both alliances handled that really well.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, it just stayed between those two, and when Ari said stop, they stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. There was no gold settlements, no nothing. It just the war was called off, and that was it.
Yeah, but what is that for you personally, this with you, He-Man, if an alliance said stop, how would they have to say stop? Would they just, the leader would have to come to you and say, hey, you know?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
They just mail between the two of them, and that was it.
Okay. Because you're not interested in necessarily completely destroying them, or are you?
No.
Okay.
No, because the reason, and that leads into your second question.
Oh, does it? Because I didn't even look. Thanks for doing it. Go ahead.
That is, the downside to why there is not more wars and whatnot in Illyriad is because of the time and money it takes to build towns up. This includes research as well as the time it takes just to build plots up, and which is, and people get a bit defensive about their towns in relation to that because they've spent so much time building these up, and they can be flattened in 12 hours and 30 minutes to nothing left.
Yeah.
So that's an issue there as well. If speeding towns up, in some of their building aspects, that was sped up, then you probably see a few more wars because people really wouldn't care that their town got destroyed. They can quickly rebuild another one. What I think.
Sorry. No, you're right. What I think you're discussing is a common thing that's come up. Now, I'm not going to get into design stuff because I'm going to reserve that for Stormcrow and Thundercat to answer, and they can answer that. I think Stormcrow's in the Twitch chat right now if you want to holler at him. But what you're basically saying is it's not that it takes a while to build the towns. Of course, it's that there's a potential for losing those towns. Now, I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers of how much damage is done, et cetera, et cetera. Generally, from what I understand from wars, is that most people are not completely obliterated, but people are so afraid of losing, something, which is the game's supposed to be punishing, There are other MMORTSs out there, of course, where you literally lose nothing if you're fought. Somebody can actually take over your town and hold it and cause you no damage at all. You can continue to play the game, and they actually kind of just leech off resources, like they're your king or something. And there's a lot of different ways people do it out there. What we're doing, what Ilya could be described as, what Ilya could be described as what you call a hardcore free-for-all PvP sandbox, and that's where you can be killed pretty much in it. So he was leading into that question, Mir. Why is war not more? Why is it more? It's not as common as some people would like in Illy. Why do you think so?
And I think he did hit the nail on the head with you have a lot invested in building up your cities. It took you a lot of time, and it's not just you. Your alliance mates have sent you resources and they've helped you out, and sometimes an alliance will turn on prestige for those people who can't buy it, and so the alliance has an investment in your cities even.
Right.
So it's a lot going on with those cities, and it can be hard to let go of them. I recommend everyone just to get rid of one of their cities and try it one time. I've lost a lot of cities and built back up, and it's not a real big deal to me anymore. So just try it. Give a city away and try again.
But is that a realistic expectation for people to think that they would just? I mean, what would in other words, some players might answer that by saying, "But what if we lost everything?" Is that even a common expectation?
I don't think it's a common expectation. I think it's really unusual for an alliance to just completely want to wipe out an individual person. It has happened before.
Sure.
But usually that person has, continued to act in a way that made them be targeted.
Yeah.
So otherwise, I think most alliance leaderships are reasonable, and they might take one or two cities and then move on to somebody else.
Right.
We've all had to build up our cities, and we all know what that's like. So you don't really want to wipe any one person out.
Okay, I'm going to go back to, let's see here. I'm going to probably, let me ask a connected question. I'm going to go to Stormcrow, GM Stormcrow's question from the chat room. So what would you think, realistically, what would you like to see, if you've ever dreamt about this, like we all do about our favorite games, Illyriad being mine, what do you think would help to make war more common in Illyriad? Mir, we'll start with you.
I think you need to be able to do some damage without having to send a siege. Right now, you send out your army when somebody's got, you have an incoming attack. You send your army out to safety. They hit the city. They might steal a few things. Nothing really happens. I'd like to see more penalties than that. Whereas if you have an undefended city, and an attacking army comes in, then lose a few levels of buildings, the place is looted, maybe they burn your fields of food and you're in a food emergency for a while.
Right.
I'd like to see there be some sort of penalty for leaving a city completely empty.
So in other words, making it all kind of hit, whether it hits or not, kind of. I know.
Because right now it's really kind of. I mean, I know it's a fantasy game, but it's kind of unrealistic that you can have a city that's all cavalry, and you send them all out, and you leave your populace there unprotected without any, not even any spears to protect the city.
Right.
And it would be it would just be a little more. You wouldn't be able to have as big of an army. It would be more approachable for more people, and I think you could do damage then without having to do a complete siege where you want to wipe someone out.
I see what you mean. Okay. How about you, He-Man? What do you think you could, if you had $1 quadrillion in control of the universe and you could add something to make war more common, would it be something actually in the game, or do you think it'd be a change in the player base?
Look at both sides there. Changing the game. Some of the things that Mia suggested would work well. But you've also got your alliance mates nearby that can stick troops in your town,
right?
Provided they're close. Sorry, I'm cutting in and out a bit here. So what else was there? There was a general shift in the attitude would be good.
Yeah.
Making wars more freely accessible. That's all I've got for the minute. Sorry, I've just got the kids waking up.
That's fine. We like children on our live stream about war and death. Just like their Saturday morning cartoons. It's all good.
Teach them young.
GM Stormcrow had a question. Let's answer this one, and then we'll go back to a little bit more technical stuff, like the actual process of war. I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's the same mechanics kind of as a siege, and we've done a siege live stream. If you're watching this later, you want to see it. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in our YouTube playlist right there. It's probably the last video, I think, actually. If you're watching this in the game, I'll link it in the forum post, but you can just search for the Siege live stream. It's on the same thread. So we've covered that before, but we'll cover some of the mechanics on war, general war. But Stormcrow says, in your experience, do wars tend to start with individual actions that escalate, or do they tend to be alliance-level escalations? In other words, do you believe there is often an alliance-level game plan to create casus belli? He's talking smart again. Why is he always talking so smart? With target alliance X, or is it more organic? Go ahead, Mir, while I think he's changing the baby or something like that.
Yeah, I think he is. That's another one. I think I've seen both. I've seen both happen where, you maybe weren't in the mood for a war, but something happened and it just kind of grew into one.
Right.
But I've also seen definitely where people were in the mood for a war and they, I think I mentioned that earlier. You take something small and you blow it up into something big. And,
yeah.
If you want a war that works, hey, go for it. As long as because that will usually result in the anger of the community. So you have to be careful with that.
Right. The community reaction is interesting because a lot of people do gauge it from GC, and in a way, I think that GC completely represents the player base in some ways. And in other ways, I think it completely does not represent the player base because most of the really most super involved players, the biggest ones, really don't talk much at all. You'll never hear from them, but some representation or some branch of that player or their alliance does. And you often get, it's funny, I read chat constantly. That's my job. So it's one of my jobs. So I get a feel for different alliances have different ways they talk. It's very interesting. I think it's because they hang out with each other and stuff like that. And so I'm sure of it. I'd have to analyze it more, but I'm absolutely sure of it. Like He-Man's alliance, He-Man, you'd have to answer this for me, and Mir, you'd have to answer me. He-Man's alliance might fight in a certain strategy. Everybody pile on this, and whatever it is. And then your alliance, Mir, might follow a certain strategy and try to, like a style of play, which is pretty interesting. Here's a funny Magic Bear 1. I wonder who that could be.
No idea.
I don't actually. If it was Coda, he would just call himself Coda. He would just change your name, Magic. How many of the? No, this is not a Coda question. No, this is somebody else. How many of the top 20 alliances do you think have mole players, like embedded mole players, in potential enemy alliances specifically for the purpose of war? In other words, what about spies and backstabbing? How many players do you think? Let's say he's asking, or he or she, I'm sorry, is asking about the top 20 alliances But let's just say, from your experience, do you think that's a pretty common thing to have a mole?
I think it has been very common.
Okay.
It has been very common, yeah. You know, we've all had them.
Yeah.
I think with the dissolution of the SAT accounts, I think you'll find that will diminish. And if you want to go in and do it yourself, you'll have to start it from scratch. And I don't know about you, but I really couldn't be bothered doing that.
A lot of people say that, and for people who are just watching this later, whatever, don't know, basically a player is allowed 2 accounts per human person. Quit making me repeat that rule. Don't write me an in-game mail and say, my friend, 2 accounts per person. But of those 2 accounts, of course, you could have an orc account, and you could have a human account, and you could use them for whatever you can. I've seen people play in all sorts of different ways. So you guys you two have both discovered moles in your alliance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would never say anything in alliance chat that I wouldn't want everyone in Illyriad to know.
Oh really? Okay. So here's a question: when you found a mole or somebody's, what was your reaction? Mir, how about you first?
You know what? I've never called them out and never removed them from the alliance. You just kill them with the lack of information they're actually going to get out of me.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to say that. I thought you'd say, I'm kicking them out of the alliance, murder them in front of everybody, take all their stuff.
Doesn't bother me. If you want to waste your time that way, go ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to be a mole in your alliance then. Here, I'm going to type the code mole in alliance. How about you, Heyman? What happened when you found out there was a mole in your alliance?
Misdirection.
Really? Oh, so you fed wrong. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Did it work though, He-Man?
Oh, I think it did. Either way, it didn't matter in the end.
Okay, so was this during a war situation, and you were, or just kind of they were just hanging out and getting general information from a potential enemy, or did you eventually go to war?
Oh no, but already at war. You got to. In previous alliances, I've been in spies, and always on the agenda of they're there. So that's why you always sort of had to be careful, but sometimes you're not so careful and things get out.
Right.
And I've seen that plenty of times.
And it can be really hard to find out who your mole is sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you'll know there's one there because you know somebody in another alliance and they say, hey, here's an email that somebody just shared that came out of your alliance, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got a mole somewhere, but then again, so do they, but I didn't ask for that mole.
Right.
That person isn't really my person. They just happened to say, hey, I thought this was lousy, so I'm going to let you know.
Right.
So you never actually find out who the person is that sent it out of your alliance.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I remember I had one, and Mia sent me the information. That's when we were at war. Remember that?
Oh,
which one?
Oh, so you guys have been at war before?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
We were on opposite sides.
Oh, so this whole thing was a setup just to get you two together to see if you would scream at each other. So okay, so you both were at war. If you can argue about this if you want, were both sides pretty equal in this war? You think?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another question. What started it? You don't have to tell details, but was it a personal thing? Was it a land grab thing? Like, get off of my land? Or was it, what started it?
Well, oh my goodness, what started that war?
So Bradley did, because he was bored.
You're probably right.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. It is an activity in a video game, and activities in video games are often done. It's what you do in a video game, especially a video game that's designed around destroying people and conquering and all that fun stuff, if you want to do that. So because he wanted something to do, did he approach Mir's alliance and say, hey, we want to go to war with you, or did you just declare it and go with it?
He just found a proxy to use and just declared war in the end. So it didn't. So yeah, that's what he did.
Okay. So how many?
Although in all honesty,
he wasn't
the only one bored. He had a whole alliance of people who were bored and cheering him on.
Okay. So whoa, we got a little. All right, a little Footloose going up in our live stream. All right, that's what I want, is some Footloose music. Actually, you're in Australia, probably. That's not Footloose. But hey, I was...
Yeah, 6:30 a.m.
Yeah. Kids, man, what are you going to do? All right, what else was I going to say? Okay, so here's another question. What happened to that war? Who won?
That was the one that we lost, I think.
No, you won that one.
We won that one?
Oh, you're going to start fighting about this. Awesome. Declare war right now.
They all blur in my mind now.
Okay, so go ahead and name your moles that you had in the other person's alliance, and we'll put that out there. No, I'm just kidding. We don't do it.
I think the one. I'll put them out there. I don't care. The one we had, he was with us for a bit, and then he got a little upset. Someone said something to him, and then he started giving information to those guys.
Now, hang on, say that again, because
I think he's still playing. He's probably still playing. What's his name? Pongo. You around there somewhere, mate?
No, he's not.
But
where? Listen,
what? Don't get me started there.
What I was going to say though is, now, what'd you say he was talking? He was playing both sides. I couldn't hear that because.
No,
he started to get upset with the direction. I think he was getting attacked, and he started getting upset, and he started sending me mail.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he was 2-timing his alliance.
Oh wow, okay, very cool. So there's a lot of double agents out there in a way.
He was trying to save his own neck.
Oh, there you go. Well, a lot of people do that. War makes people desperate. Illyrian's desperate. All right, let's get back to a little bit of a technical. Okay, so you in that war, for example, you sent the alliance leader, declares war, whatever. You do the technical stuff like that. But are you trying to? And if this gets into strategy too much, let me know. But are you trying to throw all your forces out there at first? Are you trying to do a lot of like you're feinting and you're like you don't want them to know everything that you have, or Mir, what's your typical? If you don't want to give out strats, that's fine. But are you worried at first to show all your cards? In other words.
Well, you know what? You don't want to do the same thing over and over again too much because then people are going to be able to predict what it is that you're going to do.
Right.
So there's really. No first. I mean, you might start with one really big siege in one war, and then the next time you're going to try some different strategy. Maybe start raiding people or something, or just there's tactics of annoyance where you just constantly send diplos and thieves and just things to annoy people. And there's several different routes you can take. And just don't do the same thing over and over again, because that'll. I think we fell into that. For a period of time, we were stuck in that kind of rut, and I think it kind of backfired on us at one point.
So it's interesting because earlier I was talking about the different styles that an alliance might have during a war, but you're kind of whoa. Here, let me go ahead and just I can't do my thing up there. You can just mute his mic while the kids are screaming, He-Man. But what you're trying to say is that you want to throw people off of the trail if you can. A little bit. You want them to. You want them to constantly. Now, you think you've been largely successful with that?
I think we were for a while until we got tired.
Tired of keeping up with it.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's cool.
Thing, yeah.
How about you, He-Man? When you're first declaring war, you're going at it. Are you trying to hold your cards back? Are you doing what she's doing, where you're trying to keep the style kind of variable so they never guess what you're going to do?
Well, it comes down to attrition, so you can look at it. Depending on the situation, you can throw a lot of forces in the first one to try and eliminate, what the other's got. If you're on good terrain, you stick them on a large mountain. Someone could throw hundreds of thousands of cavalry at it, and all of a sudden you're in a good position because they're all dead.
I see.
And then after that, you got to start playing careful. Basically, you send out fake sieges and whatnot, draw their forces, and send the real ones somewhere else where they can't get to.
Wow. So
definitely a lot of redirection as far as try to get them to go where you're not.
Right. So I mean, these aren't.
Right.
The secret is not so much the secret, like knowing to do this. It's the actual skill or knowing how to actually pull these off. Because I imagine if you pull them off in the incorrect way, if you don't do it correctly, they're going to know right away anyway, and then you just bust yourself. I imagine so.
Yeah. Well, one of the operations I pulled off in the last war was it was a 8 or 9 siege op, and over a couple of days, the first 2 that landed at the same time were heavily defended. Then the next 3, I think they were the next day, weren't as heavily defended. Just kept decreasing from there. But because they were all over the different areas of the map of the defending alliances map, they couldn't do all of them. So out of those 8 or 9 sieges, only 1 failed.
Right.
Because I was able to move forces all over the place.
So flexibility is important.
Yeah, well, you've got to have the troop numbers to be able to do it, but there were plenty of towns on bad terrain that enabled that to occur.
Right. Stormcrow's got another question. He tends to ask good ones. He made the game. Next question. By the way, if anybody else has questions, feel free to ask me either in the general chat. I'm trying to watch both, but it's a little hard. Or in the chat and the Twitch, whatever you prefer. I don't care. Here, where did it go? In terms of general player/alliance aversion to all-out war, to what extent do you think this is the risk-reward balance of mutually assured destruction, like time to rebuild, etc., as opposed to the general attitude of the community, like our older player demographics, preferences for Jaw over War, etc., etc.? Does that make sense? He's asking basically, what do you think is making that difference? Is it the aversion to war? Is it the risk-reward balance of mutually assured destruction, or is it kind of the attitude of people who'd rather kind of socialize? Go ahead,
over
He-Man,
time,
you go first.
I think it started. Over time, it started with, I think, with the how quick it takes to destroy a city versus how long it takes to build a city, and then it's leached into the community of to avoid it because of the risk reward scenario. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's an aversion to war, because of that particular reason. And the Elgian map is all over the place. There's alliances all over the map. They're not in one central area, so they're harder to defend. And they can get wiped out pretty easily if there's not many troops there. If they're not all military players, so that's got to come into consideration as well. So they can get taken out pretty easily.
Right.
But it all comes down to the time invested in both research and building these towns for them to be destroyed so quickly is an aversion to war.
Okay,
that's what I've seen.
Right, Mir, how about you? What do you think? Is it the?
I also think the community is a little overprotective at times too.
Okay.
Particularly with new players, we want to provide them some protection against a large player wiping them out, but we need to stay out of the way when a couple of little players start to test their troops with each other. And the best time to learn the mechanics of the game and to learn how to use your troops and to learn all these things is when you're small, because you got less to use, less to lose.
Right.
If you don't start, using your troops and fighting and stuff until you've got 8 cities and it's taken you over 6 months to build up to that,
then you're less.
Then you're a little more connected.
Yeah, that makes sense. But see, you were saying, Mary, because you've been playing for so long, and He-Man, I don't know if you can back this up or not, but you were saying, yeah, just go for it. Do you think that because you have been through several wars, or you've known a lot of people that have been through all, and you've seen the fallout, the pluses, the minuses, do you think that kind of gave you a callus to it so you're not as worried anymore? Because, what I'm saying, like, now, I can always recover, Yeah,
well, that's what I feel now. Okay. If I lost a few towns, I'd just rebuild them. I'd only rebuild until a certain level just to make troops, and that's about it.
Right. So are you inviting everybody to attack you freely now, just as long as they only take out a few towns?
Well, they can try.
I do. Look at my profile. I have a statement out there. You can attack me. I will not start a war over it.
Let's see here. You're going to attack me. Wow, this is a lot. Oh, cool pictures. Oh, wow, look at that. Okay, so there you go. I'm not going to attack you.
I put a statement out there, and nobody's taken me up on it yet, but one of these days somebody will attack me, and I will fight them back, and we'll have a little friendly fire, and, no big deal. It's a game.
Right, I mean...
Well, you can't get hurt if someone's running an army through your town.
But you know what I'm saying? I think that it's interesting because a lot of people talk about, well, this thing... this is the reason maybe people are scared of war, and I hear advice from people saying, oh, well, people don't want to war because of this and because of that. The game was designed to be quote-unquote realistic. Of course it's not absolutely real, or it would take you, 6 months to travel, that kind of thing. But it's supposed to be painful to do a lot of things in the game because that's what the designers enjoyed, the kind of sandbox, real-life kind of quality of it. But I find that when I talk to senior players or players that have played a lot, who have been around a lot, have played in some wars, they have a more cavalier attitude about it because they've been through the fire. Do you know what I mean? So
yes.
Well, Stormcrow, of course, has got a follow-up. He's going to just ask all the cool questions. Let me see. After his, I think I have one really good one, and actually 2 really good ones. A follow-up, if he may. You're the boss. You can do whatever you want. In your opinion, do wars tend to end because of generally waning morale and the likely to lose alliance, or because of a specific military strategic goal is achieved at a point? i.e. is some specific strategy, whatever, in some I don't know what a shibboleth is. He's talking smart again. What's a shibboleth? So he'll tell me.
Chivalrous.
No, he'll tell. You look in the chat room. He'll tell me later and yell at me because I don't know the word. I'm not smart like that. I'm from Oklahoma. Is it a general sense of strategic loss, or is there a moment you can point to a war when the tide turned and we won because of S? So in other words, what do you find, that it's more because of people are just like tired of it and they're like, or is it because you did achieve your goal and like, all right, we got what we wanted? Go ahead, Mira. You go first.
You know, I'd like to see more wars that were like. I know you guys put the rare resources out there, and I think more people should be fighting over them so that there is more of a goal. Because right now it's more of, we're going to war over some made up, this person, claimed sovereignty on this land and I wanted it, or this person put a city there and we didn't like that. And there's really, those just turn into long-standing wars that are going to end with, okay, we're just tired, let's, or we're out of troops or whatever, so just, keep running us over until, you get tired of it.
Sure.
It would be nice to have more wars over, the silver steel mines and things like that, because then you do have a goal, and when you've got it, then, okay, we're going to hold on to this a while, but I know somebody else is, this alliance is going to come and try to take it from us, and then when they're done, somebody else is going to try, and I'd like to see more of that, and I think it would make the game a lot more interesting, personally.
So are you saying that as an owner of a silver steel mine?
You know what? I am saying that as the person who doesn't know where a silver steel mine is.
Okay, I'm just saying. All right, hey man, how about you? Do you think it's due to, is it a war of just wearing them down, or do you get a goal and you're done? Like, do you say, I want to kill 1.18 trillion troops and I'm done, that kind of thing? Or do they have to scream a certain word in chat, like, oh, help, or something like that? What's your goal, or why do you stop a war? Why do you find a war stops, I should say?
I think generally the war stops because the other side, they've had enough. Whether it's through attrition, morale, that's up to them.
Right.
That's the one that we lost. I just had enough. I was tired. I was doing a lot of it myself, and I was just tired in the end.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, the funny thing about Ilya, I've noticed, is players will play and they enjoy the pace. I can log in a little bit. I can just kind of chill out. And it's kind of this laid back. Everybody's really nice, and then they get into a war or battle or anything, and it's like it's a million miles an hour all of a sudden. And I find that it's from my experience of hearing from people, it surprises the heck out of them. Like, whoa, like their heart's beating. Playing. What I'm saying. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic when it happens to people. Tends to change things a little bit. Let's see here. Land claim issue. We'll talk about that. Sure. Well, you can tell me a good word story at the end, but let's see. If you can, this can be practical, literal, or whatever. Mir, what is a really good war tip? Like, what do you think would be something that somebody who's new to war, who thinks, you know what, I feel like going to war today. What would be a good tip for that person?
They need to know how to time their troops.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got to be able to time your troops, because that's just, if you're going to war, you're going to have to work with other people, and they're going to be relying on you to get your troops to clear a space, or to to reinforce their siege. And if your backup troops arrive after 5 hours after their siege lands, that's not going to be much help to them.
Right.
So if you have to learn how to time your troops correctly, and learn how to use the game clock to do that.
Yeah,
and also you need to have a sitter. If you're going to go to war, you got to have a sitter on your account.
Why? Explain why.
Well, particularly if you can find someone who's in a different time zone from you, just to keep an eye on things.
Okay. So, like somebody who can kind of, for people who don't know, who are watching this later, a sitter is a person that you can give control of most of the aspects of your account. It's like a babysitter. And so they can log into your account and everything. They're not using your login and password. That's not allowed by the rules ever. If you ever do it, I'll destroy you forever. But it's an allowed thing where you can a friend can basically, or someone you trust can get in the game and keep an eye out for things, because you have to sleep at some point, I imagine.
Exactly.
But the irony is, I never sleep. I leave this thing on 24/7. So,
I don't believe you.
I do.
If I can't tell GM Stormcrow that, he paraphrased me correctly.
Did you paraphrase? Yes. Well, you can say that in the chat. I'm just. I don't know if you're watching. She might be on her phone.
No, I wasn't able to log in on there.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, she paraphrased her correctly. Okay, so He-Man, what's a decent war tip? Let's say I'm a newbie and I'm like, you know what I want to do today? I want to attack He-Man because he's a chump. I'm going to take all his land from him, and I'm just going to eat his cows in front of his face. What's a good war tip for me? First, other than don't go to He-Man's, don't fight He-Man. You can't use that as a tip. Other than that.
Google Sheets, I think, is probably another good one. Knowing how to use a spreadsheet, because as Mia said, timing is everything, and to do that, having it all in Google Sheets where everyone knows what time they've got to send, where they've got to be, that's paramount in successful military operations in the game.
Right, and a lot of people might not know what that is, but basically, it's a person can make a spreadsheet and share it with the entire alliance or whoever. And you can go in there and you can edit it together. You can see it. So who's typically, is there one or two people in charge of updating all that information?
It depends on the level of freedom that you're allowed. But if you've got it set up where you can drop down menu and pick people's cities, pick enemy cities, they fill out their army speed, because you can fiddle with them now, so they can all be sent at a reasonable time, and just give them an operation what to do, and you can fill out the rest for them if they need to, because the base information is where they're coming from, what troops they're sending, and how fast they run.
Okay.
And then pray that your mole doesn't send me the link.
Right.
But you can lock the sheets up so that this is another good thing about it as well. You can lock the sheets up so only people with certain access can get into it.
Yeah, but then what if the mole has certain access? What do you do then?
Oh, they have to give their own private email address.
I see.
So if they want to do that,
right? I love that kind of espionage type of stuff. I've always loved that. I remember playing whatchamacallit years ago, back in like 2005, 2006, Eve, and people were so attached to our game because there was a spy in our alliance, and within 2 hours it turned into this big find the spy thing, and it turns out it was this little punk kid, and everybody killed him or whatever. But in Illy, it's the same feeling. You discover somebody's out there. So, but what you're saying earlier was pretty cool. You're trying to actually misdirect them. So, would you ever go ahead and allow them to the sheets and use that as a part of your misdirection, or once they're in there, it's pretty?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't let them in there in the first place. Yeah. To get access to that sheet, you actually have to email me your real email address. Well, so that I can add you to it.
And then you have people under you that could pass on.
They could.
Information. No, I'm saying like you want that normally anyway, right? You want people to kind of help you pass on the information to your troops or your people or whatever. Depending on the size of the alliance. I think your alliance is smaller than Mir's, if I'm not mistaken, He-Man. I thought yours was sort of small. Am I mistaken? Let's look at He-Man real quick.
You can have a look.
Let's look at He-Man. Is it Dash He-Man? Oh, look at that picture. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if that's copyrighted, don't sue us, whoever is watching. All right, so your alliance profile, for example. Actually, I'm not going to click around on that. You might see some top secret. I can't do that. All right. Anyway, so let's get back to. So those are some decent tips. Just use some spreadsheets. Know how to time your attacks, which is something I heard during the Siege live stream. And what she's referring to is basically if you're sending an army from such a certain distance away, it's going to arrive at that town or that target at a certain point. You, as the other player who might be closer, need to know that. And so you were saying, Mira, that the in-game clock, which is always the same for everybody, that you use that. That's why that's important.
Exactly.
Okay, which a lot of people ask about it. Why can't it be my local? It's like, because I always tell them that's the time it is in Illy world, in that planet. You just think of it that way. All right, let's see here. What time? We got about, let's do about 5-10 more minutes here, and then we'll just get kind of a wrap-up. Let me make sure we don't have any other questions in the chat room. Blah, 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 blah. Rare races for blah, 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 blah. Oh, he was talking about, None Too Bright was asking about the land claim thing. Do you know what he's talking about there? Or do you need
I know what he's talking about.
Well, let's say alliances who claim a section of land. They say this land is ours, right? So is this something your alliance does, Mir?
No, never have. It's not the first time an alliance has done that, and I think there are alliances in the north that currently do that, but for some reason every now and then it gets to be a big issue. My opinion, basically let them. I mean, if they want to claim land, that's fine, but then they got to defend it and keep people out. So, if you want to claim the land, just be ready to take the steps that you need to, to back it up.
Right.
Anyone can claim it, but then you got to be able to back it up.
Right. And different alliances seem like they would respond differently to intrusions on that claim. Some of them seem like you even sniff near the border or whatever, they're going to be like and then some of them seem a lot more loose about it. He-Man, are you is you and your alliance? Are you a group of land claim defenders? Do you try to kind of hold on to a certain area, or are you just loose about that stuff?
Oh, we've got a land claim in Felon Dyer at the moment, and it's not an exceptionally large land claim, but there's not a lot of good terrain there, so we've sectioned off a certain area for ourselves. So as we grow, we need the space to put towns in, and by having all these other people coming into that, especially with the 10 square rule, it makes it hard to settle towns there. So that's why we've got a land claim there in the first place, though, to ensure that we've got room to grow. It's not overly large, it's only when the map's 4 million squares, we've only taken up a little bit. It's not a large parcel of land, and we do expect to have to be able to defend it at some point in time. But that's what it's all about. And if there was something to what would see land claims more prevalent in the game, if there was actually something to fight for, whether it's, as Mayor said earlier before, a silver steel mine, or more, whether certain what do you call them, states, counties, territories would have a certain attribute, whether it be plus 5% defense on all squares.
Sure.
In these certain areas. So if you establish a land claim in those particular areas, you do get a bonus for it or something like that.
Right.
So that maybe that could be something in the future, but there's there could be a reason why people establish land claims if they wanted to.
Right.
But at the moment we've got ours in there just purely for growth, so that we're a small alliance of 20 or so people, and we're going to get larger, and we want to make sure we've got the space for them. We know what we need to do to where we need to put our towns, and we want to make sure we've got the room to do that. So that's what we've got a land claim.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just going to ask that. Are you doing a lot of that for the growth area of it? Because Broken Lands was open for people who are watching, don't know necessarily. Broken Lands was opened, I can't even remember when, not too long ago, and it's a section down here more south. And so you can see, as you can see from my map here, it's not nearly as populated. Now there's a lot more water running through and stuff like that, but there's still plenty of room there. But what we have is a lot of alliances who said, as soon as it opened, like look down here, this is insane, said everybody move down there, and they all jumped down there. You've got a pretty good chunk of it, but you're leaving yourself some room inside, maybe to like a ring almost there to grow in.
Well, there's also lots of places there with not very good terrain, so it's what that further restricts is where you can go.
Right.
So as you know, the first thing you look at when you go to war is people on bad terrain. So, and we're trying to avoid that.
I see. You're trying. Okay. Right.
So the alliance is full of vets, so we want to make sure that we set it up right.
Right, and you're not overthinking it. You're thinking about it's almost like perfecting your approach, so you don't have to perfect it later. Which basically, it just sounds smart to me. Which is it sounds very cool. Okay, Stormcrow followed up by saying because we were talking about that earlier. Sovereignty was made cheaper, so alliances could actually claim the squares in terms of putting their stamp on it via in-game mechanics. Would that create more friction, do you think? That kind of sounds like what you were saying, He-Man.
Oh, you could use sovereignty as friction, but I'd like to use sovereignty to move my town closer to someone else's if they're annoying me. I see. That's you being able to move your towns around is a pretty good feature. But with counterclaiming back on the menu changes things a little bit.
Having counterclaiming back is nice.
Okay. So good. Okay, good. Because I don't know if we heard from you two on that topic. Remember, always post your thoughts on the forums, please. That's how we get your opinions and everything. I think you might have posted. I can't remember. All right, so let's see here. We've got just a few more minutes. I like to keep them around an hour. We could talk about war forever. What we might do, because I'm trying to get back into doing live streams, it's kind of hard to get together because we have such an international community. It's hard to find volunteers, and B, it's hard to find volunteers who can actually come on at some point. So if you want to come on a stream sometime, you have to have a working Skype and a mic. You have to have a good connection. You have to be able to talk to me, not be nervous, etc., etc. So maybe we'll do a follow-up war stream, because I was going to do another one about sieging, more advanced sieging, stuff like that, with Archer 4. But He-Man, we'll start with you. Can you tell me one good war story? It can be, it can be good or bad on your side, whatever. But do you have a good war story that you could kind of relay?
Yeah, I think back in that NC war that we had, we originally went to move a town from somewhere that was a bit vulnerable, and what we did is we dropped the guy out of our alliance and we put it in the middle of NC territory just outside of Aversion down there, and the original plan was for it to be a thief town. Then I changed my mind and I wanted to make it a war town. So what we did is we filled it full of cats and troops and waited 10 days, I think, after it landed the first time, then exited a few squares away so it'd be on a mountain, and waited for that to come out of exo. Then we started launching attacks out of that town 10 squares away onto NC territory.
Oh, wow.
And, that was sieges and whatnot. And then whenever an isolated town got threatened, we just exoed them all into, around NC's towns in Aversion down there. And it worked.
Brilliant, yeah.
And when he's saying exo, it's short for exodus, which is a way to move your town. Right. Exodus. Oh, that's my baby mammoth. Hang on a second, someone. Hold on. About is basically, I'm going to kill that baby mammoth later. What we're talking about is a strategy where you kind of turned something bad, seemingly bad, happened to you, and you moved them down there where they were capable of doing some damage, which sounds like a very scary thing to happen. Mir, how about you? Have a good war story?
I have a notoriously bad memory for stuff like that, but I just the one thing I remember most about any war was the first time that Night Crusaders did a flash siege. And what the flash siege was everyone, we timed it down to the second, and everyone in the alliance, well, we were a small alliance anyways, but we all were doing the, getting up in the middle of the night. We had our alarms set, several times during one night. I got up. I had to sleep on the couch so I didn't wake up my husband.
Oh, wow. That's hardcore. I love it.
It was, but it was so beautiful to watch that siege land.
Yeah.
And it took, a matter of hours, because we also, had cat attacks coming in, and that was, taking things out. And we just had that siege done so fast. And I've never seen a siege that took a city down that fast, and we were never able to actually replicate it because that was really hard to do, and it took a lot of teamwork and coordination.
Yeah,
but it was just, fantastic for the alliance. It was, we were a team then because we could, do anything once we did that.
Well, and the timing, it sounds like I keep hearing that theme come up with people who really get into it. The timing is paramount. And do you both of you find, Mir, how about you first? Do you find that use voice a lot, or just alliance chat, or are you using kind of a combination of all these different means of communication, or are you just logging a game and it's all done through that?
Well, we were doing our timing through Google spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, but there's another. You can only say so much in your AC.
Mm-hmm.
So you do it through that, and you do. Actually, I don't get into You're the only person I have on Skype, and that's because of this. I don't really do that.
Right.
So it's all handled in game for me.
Okay. But the spreadsheets are pretty important, it sounds like. And that way,
the spreadsheet is, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, He-Man? Do you find that you're using multiple ways to communicate, or are you just kind of a spreadsheet Skype guy, or do you have when I was a kid, when I was young in 2000, everybody would be like, spreadsheets, we can't use it because we didn't have the free spreadsheets necessarily back then like we do now. So everybody would do everything on Vent and stuff. So are you using voice stuff a lot, He-Man, or are you guys just AC, or what do you do?
When at war, it's a lot of it can be there's a chat feature in Google Docs as well,
mm-hmm.
so you can use that.
Mm-hmm.
Never through the voice thing, and you can also use IGMs, alliance-wide IGMs for launching times.
Mm-hmm.
I found that works. What else? And that's about it, really. Yeah, and you can talk, you can comment with Google Docs. Everyone can edit at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have 30 or 40 people in the spreadsheet. And that's what happened in the last large war. We had 30 or 40 people in the spreadsheet all at once when I was looking at all their work they were putting in,
mm-hmm.
and just assigning them duties, and then I sent it out based on I did a pivot table off it and just sent them out what they had to go and where they had to be.
But that has to be a lot of work, but it also, the more skilled or knowledgeable players you have, it has to become smoother over time, I imagine.
It's been refined since. There's always improvements to it. It was put together for war, and it's worked and it's changed over time. But it's gotten better over time. But that's what it's used for. Mainly use, the people can go into Google Docs, look at when they've got to send. They post their send time as well. I had the same guy, Viscera. He helped set it up way back in the day, and we still use a similar format.
Oh wow! So last question, and then we'll probably. I think that the chat room's good, but if you have any other questions, just in-game mail me, and I'll see if maybe we can get it for the next one or whatever. But last question, I just kind of thought about as we were talking there. What, He-Man, we'll start with you. What aspect of wartime do you enjoy the most? You can be honest. If it's bloodthirsty stuff, whatever, I don't care. But what aspect of it do you think you enjoy the most?
Watching it all unfold. You spend a lot of time planning it. Everyone's spent all their time, setting their armies, but watching them all land either at the same time or at their appointed time. All those sorts of things. That's when it's good. Like Mia said, when you do like a cat attack, when you string a few of them together, watching them all land at the same time is good. Or even as a defender, you get to see everything unfold. So being able to time it to perfection and kill all those incoming cats is also good. So just for me, just watching it unfold and watch what happens, that's what's good for me.
Do you find that the perfection of it is kind of a must for you? Are you pretty particular about that, or are you okay with it if there's some loose ends?
I'm pretty flexible. I like to leave 5 seconds. I like people who can be 5 seconds out. Mm-hmm. That's all right. Because due to game lag.
Right.
That's about it. 5 seconds is good, because that way, especially if you've got incoming cats, and you don't normally have large forces attached to them, you have most of them dedicated to clearing. Mm-hmm. So having everything land at the same time is paramount.
Right. Very cool. Timing again. How about you, Mir? What's your favorite aspect of destroying your enemies and under the heel of your boot?
And you know what? Back to timing. Watching a well-timed siege is like watching a really good ballet.
Really,
it's beautiful. Yeah. It's just really nice to see. But I think one of the most interesting things that I found over the several wars is how you find in an enemy alliance other like-minded people who play the game the way you do, and after the war, you find maybe there's a switch going on, a realignment. Because you found these other people who play the same way you do and have this, same ideas, and people you really came to respect from being on the opposite side of a war from them. Mm-hmm. I think, that's kind of a psychological thing, but I think that's been absolutely fascinating a few times, just to watch the way that happens. And, every now and then you find somebody in your own alliance that you thought was awesome, then you go to war with them and you can't stand that person anymore. But, it's just the human interactions that can go on are just... to me, they're fascinating.
Right. Yeah, and I imagine this has to have happened. You've had an enemy before that maybe later you grew to respect and maybe even invited it to your alliance. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Which is cool.
Or you become allies,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why with me and Sir Bradley as well. You look at that, and 2 years ago we were trying to kill each other as best as we could, and now we're in the same alliance.
Now you're best friends forever.
No, I still want to kill him.
Okay, that's good. Well, best friends often do. Well, that's a little bit of war for you. That's about an hour of Illy War. If you didn't understand a lot what we're talking about, that's because Illy can be a complicated game. So if you join up, if you see this and you say, hey, that sounds like a cool game, of course, you can just go to illyriad.co.uk. That's Illyriad, ILLYRIAD.co.uk. It'll be on the title of this video or in the YouTube channel. A lot of people watch it later. Go up there and sign up for free. You can play absolutely for free. I'd rather you give us $3 trillion, but if you have to play for free, that's great. And if you're confused, ask General Chat. General Chat is over here on the side that you're seeing me, all the people talking. That's General Chat. They're very friendly until you get a word with them like He-Man, and then he just destroys you completely. And Mira as well. She's mean as well, all the time. Constantly mean. But if you have any other questions, of course, you can always IGM or in-game mail me. Just go up here to my profile. You'll see me in chat. Send me a message. everybody. If I'm not on, I'm probably just in the other room killing my baby mammoth because he barked during my live stream. But if you have any other questions, of course, you can send me a mail as well at community@illyriad.co.uk. Any questions about the stream and any questions for my two wonderful, amazing guests who like to destroy people constantly, send those as well. Maybe I can ask them and maybe get you a question back. Real quick, Mir and He-Man, are your alliances recruiting right now?
Yes.
Really? I thought you were going to say no. Yours is too, He-Man. Okay, very good. So maybe you can...
It's a slightly different process, but yeah, we're recruiting.
Are you jumping people in?
No, what they do is they have to go through another alliance before they come to us. Not really a training alliance, but they come to in an effort to weed out spies, that sort of thing. You've got to prove that you want to build up and whatnot. So to make our alliance as secure as possible.
Oh, very cool. So, Mir, you don't have any special process, do you, as well, or?
You know what? We've been. I just moved alliances. I left my training alliance, and I'm now in Harmless. So we're just getting rolling a little.
Right.
And I'm coming out of semi-retirement because I was just tired after that last war and I needed a break.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get moving again. So if anyone's interested, contact me.
You can always sleep on the couch again, so you can set that alarm.
There you go.
I have to do it when my baby mammoths are afraid of lightning storms. I get to sleep on the couch while the baby mammoth shakes in my arms like a baby. All right, so if anybody else has any questions, let me know in game. Thank you both for joining me. I know that He-Man, I know it's really early for you, so I appreciate that.
That's all right.
It was a lot of fun.
And Mir, thank you for ditching work, getting in trouble for doing that. But everybody, just let me know in game if you have any questions. I'll see everybody next time. We'll probably do another one within, I don't know. I'll have to just see what I have. Probably, if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, go for it. Maybe even in handling some of the day-to-day duties in Illy, like trade and just basic, literal things that you need to do in Illy to kind of stay ahead. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next time. I'll see everybody in game. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.